I got your Scream document.
Care to share what this document that you're talking about is with the rest of the fans?
It's a Word document that's shared with me called "You can get this, or you can get with this, or you can get with that."
You can go with
Vitamins and
this.
minerals dash food choices. And it tells you where you can find your B6, your vitamin D,
Ooh,
your folate.
your what?
Folate.
What the fuck is full weight?
You can find it in romaine lettuce, asparagus, cooked lentils, cooked spinach, black-eyed peas, kidney beans, and sunflower seeds.
I see.
It is not 2000 late.
Uh,
It is not 2000 and late.
Fascinating way to start the episode today, friend.
Fascinating. Guess what episode this is, people? Well, you've watched the title.
Yeah.
Unless you watch our episodes on binge, in which case, good for you.
You know, every once in a while people will say, "You have a podcast?" And I go, "Yeah." And then
Wow.
say, here's my podcast. And then they go, "Sure, I'll listen." And I don't know if they do. Our numbers have gone up on Anchor, so that's kind of neat.
Neat.
Very neat. So today we're here to talk about Scream 6. We might be a little rushed. I don't think so. There's a feeling enough to talk about in this movie, while still having like room for like not having to be super long, but also not super short.
Yes.
So we haven't. This is our first Scream movie that we've recorded for. Correct?
Did we not record for 5?
It was before.
Hiya.
Because our first movie was fucking Moonfall.
Yeah.
And that was February, like first week of February.
What a time.
What a time. What a time to be alive.
What
So
a time.
today we're here to talk about Scream 6, which is the second film in the Scream franchise not to be directed by the original director.
Yes.
Yep.
Not Wes Craven.
Not Wes Craven.
Who is no longer with us.
Unfortunately. I can't remember when he
2015. I looked at
2015?
I looked that shit up.
So 4 years after the release of Scream 4.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people had at that point written off the franchise. They had said, "No Wes."
Is Scream 4 considered to be poo-poo?
You know, I remember when they came out, people were not super hype on it.
Yeah.
But I will fight tooth and nail that it's in the top half of the movies.
People think Scream 3 is poo-poo.
I agree with people. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
So I see Scream as a franchise where there really is no like awful movie.
Yeah.
I don't love Scream 3. I don't also love Scream 2.
Gotcha.
But they're not bad.
Mhm.
Like they're passable slashers.
Right.
Right? They're still fun, they're entertaining. If anything, the whodunit aspect of it is always a lot of fun.
There's a lot. Your whodunits can go a long way.
Yeah, the mystery and keeping people intrigued will do a lot of heavy lifting.
It will indeed.
Right. So here in Scream 6, we follow the cast of survivors from Scream 4. Sorry, no, from Scream.
Yeah.
Yeah, or 5 Cream as we like to call it. Yes. And so we have our core 4 who moved to New York.
Yeah.
They are no longer in Woodsboro, and now we have Ghostface in the big city.
Yes.
And you know, a lot of franchises try to go to the big city.
I love the setting.
The setting is great.
I love the setting.
Which is not something that you can say about other franchises that go to New York.
Like,
for example, Jason Voorhees goes to Manhattan.
I did not know that. That does not seem like it would be ideal.
So
it's amazing what a machete and a hockey mask can do versus
guns.
Versus a cosplay uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane. So I believe it's the 7th movie. It's called Jason Takes Manhattan. And the funny it's 8, my bad.
There have been 8 Friday the 13th movies at least.
There are more than 8. Way more than 8. It's a huge franchise. But yeah, so Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. It's one of the worst. One of the worst Friday the 13th movies. And
like, would we have fun if we watched it, or is it just like...
It's one of those movies that is a lot of fun, but it's not good.
Yeah.
And then the problem is the movie is called Jason Takes Manhattan, and they don't get to Manhattan until like 45 minutes into the movie.
Hiya.
And this movie is an hour and 40 minutes.
Yes.
That's me being generous.
Traffic is spelled out.
And the funny thing is, the way they get to Manhattan is they're on like a yacht.
Oh, nice. Is Jason on the yacht?
Jason's on the yacht. He's living at large.
Okay, that's cool. I was
Yeah.
gonna say, if you were in a yacht, would you be Jason proof?
No, God, no. So many people die in this yacht.
Gotcha. But if you were on a yacht that was, if Jason was over there on the land
Uh-huh.
and you were in the yacht, which was well past, well past wade in the water distance, could Jason get to you?
So it depends who you ask,
Yeah.
because there's always been this debate on whether or not Jason is somewhat magic and can he teleport. And
Mm,
it's a stupid argument,
gotcha.
because the obvious answer is fuck no, he can't. People are just stupid. But it's a legitimate debate that people
Yeah.
go, can this man
Teleport.
teleport?
Yeah.
Poof,
Yeah.
he's behind you. Poof, he's on the second floor of this building.
Good for him if he can. If he can teleport,
Yeah,
good for him.
good for him indeed.
Yeah.
But there is something magical about it, because I think at one point he goes to hell, then he revives, then he's like a ghost, then he's something
Yeah.
else. It's a whole shebang of just like insanity. But let's talk about a little bit more grounded
Yes.
reality, which is still kind of exaggerated, right? It's still, there's always some elevated aspect with like a horror movie, right?
Anytime in this one or like the last Halloween where you can like take a knife, stab someone, and like lift them up on the wall with the knife. Yes, there's some exaggeration. Oh wait, I forgot the chiefest exaggeration. First kill lady was on the phone with her date. Her date was like, "I'm lost," and her response was not like, "How are you lost? It's New York.
The streets are
The
numbered.
streets are numbered."
There's a reason why that joke
Yeah,
from the John Mulaney special sticks in your head.
it is. However, to be fair, she was not on a numbered street.
No,
She
she
was
was on
on a main street.
Hudson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
so that's fair.
no excuse.
No excuse. But yeah, so I would say this movie is one that you cannot talk at all, really, without going into any of the details.
Right.
I think we can just say that it's very good.
Very good.
Ghostface
Ghostface is ruthless.
Ghostface is fucking
Yeah.
insane in this movie.
He moves so sexily.
Very. Dude,
Yeah.
there's some scenes where I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I personally would say, if I were to rank this in my personal list, it's either in the second or the third spot for me.
Gotcha.
I really like this movie a lot. I think everybody in this movie does a really good job.
Mhm.
I know people were very salty about the fact that Neve Campbell is not back in this movie.
There'll be more.
And as someone who's seen all of the movies and has been I don't want to say this is like my favorite franchise, but I've been a pretty solid fan of this. I don't think you need her in this movie, because my whole thing is, this movie is not about Sydney.
I forget. Is what's her name dead? Journalism lady?
No.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. So my thing is, like, yes, legacy characters show up, but I'm here to see the story of Sam and Tara.
Yes.
Not having Sydney, having Dewey, having Gail show up in these movies. That's just like nostalgia stuff.
Right.
And I'm not going to judge this movie based on their role in this as much.
Speaking as someone who's Scream 5 Cream was my first Scream movie that I like paid attention to and actually saw, like, not as a child. I have no reason to see any of the legacy characters anymore. I think these characters pull enough of their own weight, or I do not care. The one that came with Hayden Panettiere, right?
Yep.
She was fun. Looks good in leather.
Looks very good in leather.
That's it.
Get the fuck out.
Yep.
You don't need to be back. You don't need to whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's fine. And so I would say I think this movie overall is a very fun addition, especially considering that this is the sixth movie in the franchise.
Yeah.
Like, what other franchises can you say that there are 6 movies in deep and are still good?
Not John Wick yet.
Not John Wick yet. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I am so scared.
I'm so excited.
I'm like, I want to be so I don't want to overhype the movie, but everybody who I see is like,
that means it's at least got to be good.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I don't want to overhype it in my head. But anyway, let's go into our spoilsies. Oh, before we do that, Big shout out to our boy Mojo Jojo.
Whoa.
Because Mojo Jojo does a fantastic job in this movie.
Mojo Jojo's in this movie?
He's Ghostface. He's the voice of Ghostface.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a voice actor, right?
So it's interesting. I looked up old episodes of Scream 1 or old YouTube clips of Scream 1,
Mhm.
and then I heard Ghostface, in this movie and the last movie. And I'm like, man, oh man, technology got better and I'm here for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's still,
Yeah. It sounds so crisp
it
and like
sounds
good.
very crisp right now. Back
Yeah.
then, I mean, you had the graininess of it a little bit, which
Right.
is fine.
But this is better.
Way better, for
This is
sure.
better. Yeah.
So let's get into the movie.
Mhm.
So what are some of the things that you have noticed? Because you say you haven't really seen a lot of the movies, right?
Uh-huh.
Have you seen any of the other ones since
I saw
Five Frame?
no, I saw Scream 3 as a child on TV,
Hmm.
and I remember thinking it was dumb. And then
Fair.
I saw Five Cream, and then I saw this one.
Okay.
Yep.
So one of the things that I do notice straight up from the very beginning is they do a lot of the things that are the same, but then those things that are the same are used in a different way, if that
Yes.
makes sense. So like when people say this movie is repetitive, I'm like, yes. When someone says this movie is original, I go, also yes.
Yeah.
Um, there is no real thing in this movie that I would say is 100% original, right? Everything is a callback to something else, but that is ingrained in what this movie is,
And
right?
this is where I swear, okay, I'm checking the episode log right now
Hmm.
because the reason I bring this up is this is where I swear my like problem with the franchise is like maybe we had this conversation outside of filming.
Maybe.
Scream can like have its cake and eat it too.
Sure.
Like it can be like
Self-referential.
self-referential. This is a satire.
Hmm.
This is pointing out the horror movie tropes, right? And then it'll just constantly still fit into like constantly fit into this trope. In some cases, the part of this is like a part of this is like very tropey with the way what's the bad friend's name? And when I say the bad friend, I mean Quinn, right? Quinn's
The
Quinn's
bad
ghost face.
girl, yes.
Yeah. I liked how her whole thing was handled with
Like
they're
the
like,
fake out.
yeah, but they're like, don't have sex, and then
Oh yeah,
they're like the slutty friend, like, and then she's like sex positive,
sex. Right,
and,
and
and she
and
and she was a baddie, so it is tropey, but like if you're as long as you expect, it's like going over to a vegan's house and getting mad they served you a veggie burger.
fair. So one of the things that I think the movie does a really good job with is in the very beginning,
Yeah,
right, in our opening scene, we're introduced to Samara Weaving's character, who's a professor of film, specifically focused on slashers,
slasher,
right?
yes.
Which is fucking hilarious to even consider that probably could be a class.
I also take it not that's not the most hilarious part. Back to that scene being most unbelievable. We already had the reason for the streets. So like, hey, this like film professor has enough money to be out in the town.
Uh-huh.
She's looking fine out in the town.
Fine.
And she's like dumb enough to like, be going with I mean, it could be a deep fake, who knows?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, this lady would never be here. Like it's like the situation is obviously so contrived. But because it's Scream, you're like,
Yeah.
hi.
Right. It's
Yeah.
in a way it kind of follows the trope of the dumb blonde,
Yeah.
but then at the same time
But
it's
she's a
like
smart dumb
she's
blonde.
a smart dumb blonde, right?
Yep.
Because she's a professor at
At a film.
a film school,
Yes.
right? So it's
He's killed by fucking Flash Thompson.
by Tony Ravioli. I will never not call him Tony Ravioli. I can't remember what it was. He was in some show and they were like doing interviews with the people and they call him Tony Ravioli,
That's funny.
and it's just it always stuck. But I do like that she does mention like the reason why I like slashers is because they are always a commentary on like what is the current trends,
Yes.
right? So like back then the slasher was like, oh shit, we're scared of sex,
Right.
like don't bang.
Yep.
And the whole idea of the summer youth, going to summer camps and all this shit.
Yeah.
And then like in more recent times, like even in Scream 4, which was already 10, 11 years ago.
Right. I don't even know.
No, 12 years ago, because that Scream 4 was 2011.
I actually really want to see a Scream 4 because I want to look if I can watch that movie and be like, yes, this was 2011.
Oh, it's 100% 2011.
It'll have a scene with my band teacher getting arrested.
But yeah, so like Scream 4 like talks about like the idea of internet fame
Yeah.
and like broadcasting shit to like people, because that was the beginning of
That was the beginning of
like what was it called, Justin TV and all this shit, right?
uh,
Like live cams were starting to be kind of a thing.
Ray William Johnson.
Ray William Johnson, right? The
Mm.
internet commentary, and all that shit, like the birth of that. And now in this movie, it's a commentary on the requels and the sequels of the requels.
Both of
And
these are, both this one and the last one, I would say are. In fact, I would say, as someone who's not really familiar with the series, good thing these came out like back to back because
Mhm.
they are like they like fit better together as like two parts to a whole than like the fucking Halloween movies did.
They
Just
do,
came out.
and that's also an aspect of the Scream movies, because if you look back at the history of Scream, Scream One came out in '96,
Yeah.
and like a year later, or less than I think less than a year later, the second one came out,
These got to
and
be
then like
relatively low budget, right?
yes, I mean this movie was 33 to 35 million dollars
Yeah.
in budget, and it's already made 75.
Yep.
So like
Sure
it's
it
an
is.
easy
Yeah.
decision. And if you have a writer or a writers group who's willing to like put in the work and get this shit cranked out fast, you can guarantee your ass that
You
like the
can do it.
studios are going to be like, hell yeah,
Yeah.
get it. Um, so we have the another thing that is different but also the same is, well, you have a kill, obviously.
Uh-huh.
Your blonde gets killed, but then you see Ghostface right away, right?
Yes.
Which to me was like, oh, what is
Okay, stop
like
outside,
what
Lucky.
is happening here? Like
Yeah.
you never have a Ghostface reveal. Like there's always the um when the first kill always happens in these movies, like there's always a cut to the title card.
Mm.
Like that's always been the trope, in the very beginning of the movie, Drew Barrymore gets killed
Right.
and cut to the black screen. Um in Scream 2, you have the first kill is Jada Pinkett Smith. She
They,
gets stabbed and then she gets killed.
is it
And
always these high profile people in or highest profile people?
the first couple of movies,
Yeah.
they were, because that was a big fake out.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people were under the impression
I
that
had
Drew
heard that Drew
Barrymore,
Barrymore was going to be like a star.
and that was also a play on like Psycho.
Yeah, because she's also
Yeah,
she
I
also
can't
gets killed
remember.
early
I can't
on.
remember the actress in the
Yeah.
movie, but she was also like a big
Right.
name.
She was famous. Yeah.
And so that was a thing that's always happened. Like you see Ghostface slashing down in the cuts, and then this one, like, you stay there
Uh,
and you see the blood on his face, and then he takes the mask off, and you're kind of like, oh, this is not supposed to happen.
mhm.
So that was kind of cool. But then we do have him interacting with Tara at the beginning too,
Yeah, the party.
which is kind of it's a weird thing where you're following this guy. You're like, oh, it's almost treating him like a main character, and then now your former main characters like involved here somehow.
And they're trying to QAnon conspiracy slash cancel uh, Tara and older Tara.
So
Sam.
so none
Yeah.
of these guys, right? It almost feels like these guys don't necessarily buy into the whole Richie was set up, because they want to finish what Richie started, which was the movie, right? Having new source material to make new stab
Hmm.
movies, right? They wanted to continue the series. They're not the ones that buy into this, but like you do see people after the party scene,
Fuck you.
where they're like, she killed her boyfriend, blah blah blah, she's crazy, and then they film her and they put the shit on Reddit,
Right.
which is 100% shit that happens today. Again, that commentary on shit that's happening today with, I know it's not super recent, but like shit with what was it, the Boston
Boston
bomber,
bomber. Yeah.
who like
Right. When
they
Reddit found the Boston
Reddit,
bomber.
well, they thought they found the Boston bomber,
Found in quote.
and
Yeah.
they fucking like almost killed. Did they kill a guy, or did they almost
I
kill a
forget, he
guy?
got swatted,
But yeah, like they like were trying to fuck this guy up who had nothing to do with it.
yeah.
And it's this whole idea of like the QAnon people who just get these ideas based on just insane internet
Right.
theories, right? And so then we're brought back to our core four who are in New York for
A new life. A
reasons.
new start.
What do you think of the turn that they gave? Um, I keep wanting to call her Melissa, but I know that's the actress's name.
Sam.
Sam. Yeah, like the turn where she's like, yeah, I killed my boyfriend, but that's not the problem. The problem is that, like, yeah, fuck him. it felt good to kill him because it was right.
It's it is kind of cool. To me, it made the character interesting.
For sure.
And then especially that makes the ending. It makes the ending feel like cohesive with the thing where she just goes ham on
On the baddie.
on the baddie.
Which by the way, dude, that's got to be the worst fucking like therapist.
Yeah.
Like if your therapist is like, well, can't fix this.
So I forget, he doesn't know she's Billy Loomis's daughter, right?
No,
But she knows who Billy Loomis. But he knows who Billy Loomis.
he knows who Billy Loomis
Yeah.
is. And you know, in a way, kind of good on him for not like Googling his client.
Right.
But at the same time, like if this is what your client tells you, like, hey, you know, I'm having these thoughts,
Yeah.
and your first thing is like, well, I'm gonna call the cops.
Yeah. Then
Like,
they forgot a step. It's supposed to be preventative. Which her thoughts? I mean, it was funny. She explicitly like never said that she was actually thinking of enacting them.
no, for sure,
Yeah.
and that's what she does say that actually.
Right.
She says like she's like, I'm not saying I'm going to do it. I'm telling you like these are the feelings that I felt when that event
it happened.
happened a while ago, right?
Yeah.
And she's just like, well, we're done here for today.
Right. And then he gets what's coming to him.
He does.
Yeah. He gets punished for not helping the lady.
Yeah, and you know, we started, or you actually started saying that you know this Ghostface is very, very like brutal,
Right.
and the kills in this, and just the way that some of the attacks are portrayed, like you see him like stab this guy
Stabbing and
through
twisting.
the fucking face,
Yeah.
and even Kirby, when she hears about what happened, she's like, through the face, like fucking
Through the
hell,
face. Yeah.
like goddamn, that is not like stab him in the eye, like that happens,
Right.
not stab him like in the neck, no, like through the fucking nose.
Well, and then other Ghostface gets stabbed through the face.
He does.
In the movie.
Yeah,
Through the throat.
through the
Not the throat, but through like the back of the mouth.
yes,
Yeah.
and then Big Daddy gets hit in the eye
Yeah.
at the end of the movie, right? So let's get our three ghost faces out of the way here too, right? That's also a new thing in this movie.
But there's all three of them.
We have never had three ghost faces, and actually, in if you look at our
Only two whom we see in the costume.
yes,
Okay.
there's you know debate on whether or not the dad was in the room with Quinn, and that's why they were able to get the body switched over so fast. I'm not sure.
Well, he
But
says he made sure he was first on the scene.
yeah, so like that could be a way, and then that also then gives the other boy, is his name Ethan?
I don't remember.
I believe his name is Ethan. He's
Big champion.
Jake Champion.
Right.
Yeah,
it's Ethan.
Yeah, Ethan. So that gives him his alibi of I was in my econ class. I was in my econ class, which you mocked so hard at the end of that scene. He's like, I had econ. So whiny. But so if you look at the outline down below in our third topics, I have our ghost faces. Like who are they and what are their motives and how does this motive stack up, right? So we have our three ghost faces in this movie. We have Quinn, we have Ethan, and we have Officer Bailey. Right. So from the beginning, like you're kind of like, well, it could be the roommate or it could be this new guy.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever buy one of the core four being the ghost face in these movies.
I don't think so. I think the core four are now so solidified as they've effectively become the Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Right. Comic fighting skills to fight masked villains. And they're all racially diverse, right?
Yeah.
Power Rangers.
And the thing I don't understand in the marketing for these movies is they put these characters, like even the legacy characters, in the last movie, they were like, oh, could Dewey be the killer?
Yeah.
Could Gale or Sydney be the killer? I'm like, that would be the worst thing you could do to any of these characters.
So there was, when they played with Hayden Panettiere being the killer, I was like, maybe. At that point, I'm trying to remember when it was, but there was a point I'm like, well, it's got to be one of the cops.
Mm-hmm.
Like either her or him is going to be the killer. Maybe both of them.
Mhm.
Right. My money was still mostly on him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not the hot one.
Right. It is interesting how in this movie, I don't know how the other ones handled it. But in this movie, it is interesting how they handled the fact that like it is kind of the people that you expect it is. Which when it comes to like I don't know the commentary of the recent um, the Trump era like post, I think a lesson that a lot of people took about like about bad people is like believe them when they tell you that they're bad.
Yeah.
Like when Donald Trump says he's gonna build a wall, he's gonna try to he's gonna try to build a wall. When he tells you he's gonna try to steal an election, he's gonna try to steal an election.
For sure.
Yeah. So you got this like dweeby econ kid, you've got a cop, you've got daughter of a cop. Um and they're mad that they're like Rock Turnery brother is got what was coming to him. So like it fits. It
Yeah.
fits. Yeah.
And so I think as far as like the motives for these characters, like I buy why they would do it. And I think in a way, I don't know how early on you kind of were like, ah, it's Richie's family, like it's this girl because of this. It does throw you off because like
Right.
there's a scene very early on where Quinn says like, when I moved to New York, my dad followed me and he's been super protective since my brother died.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, oh,
And
well, who's the brother?
they mentioned the dead brother twice.
They do.
So do you know it's like important?
It's important, right?
Yeah.
And in a way, I feel like if I have a glaring negative in this movie is that some of the hints are a little too handholdy. And that I think is even more so like telegraphed through Mindy's character, who is always like, "This is what's happening. This is what's happening. This is what's happening."
She's the twin sister.
She's the
right?
twin sister,
Yeah.
right? Who's like super into movies, and I get that that's also something that the Randy character did a lot in the original two movies. But then I was like, well, that only gets you like I can only forgive that so much. Like after a while, I'm like, all right, tone that shit down.
Well, that's just what I said. That's just my fundamental problem with the franchise.
Yes,
Right. That just seems baked into.
it does, and in a way, people say like, oh, it sucks that Randy died,
Right.
but then once Randy died, you lose that element of like the super self-referential.
The chorus.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yes, it sucks. I think it would suck to lose Mindy in the next movie.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, then we need to kind of let the audience be the one to figure out that these are the tropes that are happening. Because just you telling me these tropes are happening is not going to then make the trope not feel like a trope anyway. Right? Like saying, oh, it's the brother's family who's,
So how many of these did we not have like this chorus character?
For sure in three and kind of in four.
Yeah.
So like for sure in three because Randy's dead.
Yeah.
In four, there are some characters that do reference like the movies, but they are not. At least not to my recollection, they're not as like heavy-handed in it. Like there's a couple of characters who are like, oh, these are the new rules. Like, well, you're not, but they're not. I don't remember them being as like shoved down your throat
As omnipresent. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's really my only glaring issue that I have here in this movie. I do think that the new additions to the cast are really good. As inconsequential as I think he is, I like Danny's character.
Danny is the brother.
It shows that you don't even know who Danny is because he doesn't really make a splash. He's the hot across the alley neighbor, right?
Yeah, he had a weird voice.
He kind of talked like this.
Right, he had a weird voice.
He kind of talked like Cholo a little bit.
Yeah,
and then I was like, but then you see him in other shows and he doesn't talk like that.
Yeah, it was interesting.
It's an odd choice. Because he plays Pug in I want to say Jessica Jones, but not Jessica Jones. She-Hulk. He's the male paralegal. He's Adrian Chase in the Arrow TV show.
Interesting.
He plays like you know how like there's always the joke in Marvel movies, it's the good guy with the same good guy powers, but now he's bad and that's the enemy.
Right.
People like to throw that jab at Marvel,
Hmm.
but that's literally every villain
In DC.
in DC as well. Like,
Anti-Flash.
yeah,
Yeah,
like the Reverse Flash, or
that's
then
his
you
name.
have in Arrow, you have Prometheus, who is literally just a guy who shoots arrows really well,
The Yellow Lantern.
right? So
Yeah,
so he plays that equivalent in
I
Arrow,
see.
right? He's a fucking asshole, but he does not talk like that.
So it's interesting. They have this scene where you find out that they're like already banging.
Yeah,
Where like they're keeping the relationship secret, but they are just like straight up like they're
bumming.
about to get it on in the middle of like the mailroom.
And at one point, like they're making out and shit,
Yeah,
and it's the scene right after Chad walks out of Tara's room,
yeah,
and my assumption is he's leaving, he's going home.
yeah.
And then you see them like making out in the stairway, and you see someone walk down the stairs, and I'm like, they're still making out, and
Right,
Chad's right here.
right.
But then Chad's upstairs, and I'm like, oh, so that wasn't Chad. So like, clearly they still are not paying attention enough.
Yeah,
So I don't know. It's a weird reveal. I don't really mind it. I do think he's kind of fun.
he's fun.
Uh, he never bothered me.
You think he's gonna get it in another movie if he's still in the
Oh,
movie?
I think he has to come back,
But
and I
is he gonna
think he's
get?
gonna get it.
Yeah.
He's gonna get it, and I don't want that. But I feel like as far as like the expendability of characters go, like he's top of that line.
This got me thinking. I don't know where you would set anyone. I guess the thing is, if you're going for urban setting, like you can't get any more urban than New York.
It doesn't get bigger than New York.
Could Scream go to Texas?
You know, I and this could be like maybe a little bit of the initial conversation we had today.
Yeah,
Set this shit on a cruise ship.
there you go.
Cruise ships are huge,
Huge,
huge, fucking
and
massive,
and you can't leave
and you can't
unless
leave.
it's one that like goes to different ports, and
That too.
then you could do some
Um,
culturally appropriating voodoo stuff.
my
What island you're in?
my thought initially, so this cruise ship thing happened because of the Jason Takes Manhattan conversation we
Of
had.
course.
But when I was thinking of the marketing and what they could do to market a new Scream movie, I was like, take this shit to Italy. Take this shit to Italy, and then you can have someone recreate like famous, paintings, and then obviously the obvious one is the Scream.
It's Tu Brute, which is today, March 15th. Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
So I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking. Like, set it somewhere in Europe. Maybe
Yeah,
have it be, like the crew is going around
on a boat.
if it's set a year or two after this one, which I'm assuming if they are greenlit as fast as the last one was, um, have them be like that lady from NYU.
The
The article that we were reading yesterday, we were shitting on this girl for
yeah, that's
my friends partied too hard when we went to our semester abroad.
yeah. For the people at home, the lady who studied abroad basically talked about how it was phony and she hated it. Right? That's the gist. She didn't like that people were partying.
She didn't like that people were taking $20, vacations to other countries.
Yeah.
Boo hoo. I was trying to study. There was nowhere quiet in our dorm. Oh, fuck you. So have them do that. Have Tara be that.
Dude, Jenna Ortega, every time I hear stories about her, she just seems tired.
She seems like an old lady living in the body of a very hot young girl.
No, I love Jenna Ortega. But like everything she's in, I feel like they're either like exploiting this poor woman or they're just like working her to the bone, which is also exploiting.
Which is but I think that could be new, right? Because like they've done college.
They've done college.
They've done going back to the original town.
Right.
I feel like you can't go back to Westboro.
No.
And then here's the thing. I know that the thing I'm worried about is that they're going back to Sydney for the seventh movie. Because I know it was a big deal that she wasn't in this one. The reasoning for why she wasn't in this in the movie.
Oh, in the movie.
Well, in the movie, they say it's because she's taking her husband and her kids and keeping them somewhere safe.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, dude,
good for her.
You have zero investment with this new group of people. In the last movie, Fine.
Yeah.
Dewey died. That's why she's in town. She's there to support Gail. That she gets wrapped up in the events, right?
Right.
In this movie, she has no fucking stake in this,
Right.
right? Dude, let this poor girl live.
Like I said, I'm new to the game. I just don't see the reason for it. I think not just so that, but more so like I think this cast of four is just so likable.
For sure. Let
That
these guys let the movie rest on the shoulders of these four characters. And so you have the argument that oh, in Halloween, Jamie is back.
Mhm.
And so she has to be in the movie. But the thing is, in the first Halloween remake or requel, they made the movie about Jamie and her family.
Yeah.
In Scream 5, or 5 Scream as we like to call it,
Yes.
that's not what it's about. The movie is about Sam.
Sam.
Yes, she has a connection to Sydney through Billy,
Really.
but
Si-
that's just the connection to the series, right? To the
Sydney
franchise.
is ancillary. Yeah.
Exactly. She shows up
Right.
for
She
reasons.
helps.
She does. But even as far as I'm aware, as
Yeah.
far as my interpretation of Richie's and Amber's motive,
Yeah.
it's not to get Sydney involved in this.
Yeah. Ghostface is Sam's
Yeah,
main
they
character.
want to fuck with Sam.
Right.
And at one point, she even does, when they're talking to Ghostface on the phone, they go, "Oh, it's kind of cool that you're here."
Right.
They never go haha, this was our plan all along to get you involved. So, the fact that she's not in this movie bothered me none whatsoever.
Me neither.
And I don't think they need to bring her in, but I'm worried that they are.
Here's my question that I asked you in the theater. Now that we've been through the requel and
Hmm.
we've been through the reboot,
Hmm.
what what does the next phase of nostalgia look like?
And I think my answer was, I don't think we know.
Hayden Panettiere? I mean that I guess the because so at some point I know we were jumping, but Star Wars is going to go through this,
At
right?
some point soon, right?
At some point soon, where they're going to bring back Daisy Ridley, and then
Well, it's Star Wars kind of had something like that, right? So you had the original trilogy,
right,
and then you went back to prequels,
right,
and then you shot forward to the requel,
and then that's where you had your formal passing of the torch.
right?
So now you have to build. Now you have to build a new trilogy off of that nostalgia, um which I think they can. I think given how that trilogy was received, I think that's a little challenging. I will say though, I think Scream has set itself up nicely where let's say there's not a movie for 5 years. I think you can bring Jenna Ortega and Sam back and
Hmm.
be and people will be like,
These
our
these
lovable sisters.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe what you have is maybe the making. You could have a movie about the making of a stab movie, where then the characters in the stab movie are involved in a ghost facey scenario.
Yeah.
And that I'm not saying it's a wholly original concept, because there is something like that in American Horror Story.
Mm.
One of the seasons, one of my favorite seasons after shit started to go kind of crazy in that show. Season 6 starts as if it was a true, I don't want to call it true crime, because that's not really the right term.
Hmm.
But those ghost shows where they're this is what happened, and this is the recreation of what's happening,
Yeah.
and that's how it starts. And then after 6 episodes, then that's when they start introducing the characters who are playing the characters in the recreations,
Mm.
having to go back to the original house where the events in the story happen.
Interesting.
And it's a pretty cool plot development.
Yeah.
I think they could do that in this movie, in this series, where they're we're making the events of what happened with Sam and Tara, and we're gonna make this movie. Who's gonna be playing Sam? Who's
Yeah.
gonna be playing Tara? And then you could have those characters who are acting as Sam and Tara interact with Sam and Tara.
Well, then here, though, I think this is what's most interesting to me about the lane that the Scream franchise chooses to be in. Because when you choose to ride in the meta commentated lane, right? Um, As long as there's something in the media cycle, you always have something to sort of like discuss or
Mhm.
talk about. Um, and I actually forgot the main point I was going to say, but like, they'll go back. The lizard themselves played in the movie. I don't know. I'll think
If
of it
you
later.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think could be the funniest way to spin the series off is to spin the series off with a character like Kirby,
Mm-hmm.
but not have it be a horror movie or like even
Oh,
a slasher.
interesting.
Like Kirby is going back to Atlanta and she's in a romantic comedy.
Yes,
And then she has like paranoia about having been stabbed like 5 times.
that would be funny.
You kind of I think like a series like Scream because it's so weirdly self-aware and meta. You could play with those like tropes.
So now I remember what I was going to say. What's interesting about it, so not the franchise itself, but more so the greater conversation that the franchise is in, is that like as long as like we are living in this like recentish nostalgia cycle where like requeling things and like the multiverse stuff and yada yada yada. Like this iteration of Scream will feel really very relevant,
Hmm.
but I think what it points me to is the curiosity of like how many generations can like nostalgia last?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I really don't know. It's at some point we have to get bored of nostalgia, right?
yeah.
And I don't know how long that can hold its own weight.
And this is very boomer of me, but like at least we have like original-ish stuff to be nostalgic about,
Yeah.
whereas a lot of the stuff now is just like the nostalgia.
Yeah, so I think I know what you mean, right? Like so back then we could say like, oh, we had the Scream movies, right?
Right.
They are technically original even though they are very like
They were in a
influential.
nothing is fully original, right? And
Exactly,
yeah,
right? So yeah, I feel like now we are ending up with things that are wholly not original at all,
yeah.
right? Like there really is. I'm trying to think of what is the most original concept that we have that is still going strong, and I know
John Wick.
I know I it's John Wick,
Yeah.
right? And even that has like you know roots in like underground like mafia movies, kind of,
In the Matrix.
and a little bit
In the sense that like you're watching
an action
this
movie.
actor like kick everyone's ass.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I would still say that that is original,
Right.
right? I think we have hit some originality with directors like Ari Aster,
Hmm.
right? You have the elevated horror movies,
Right.
your Babadooks, um
You're
your Hereditaries, your
your
Midsommers, right?
Vivitches.
Your
Yeah.
Vivitches, the Lighthouse,
Yeah.
right? But in a way, I don't blame the directors necessarily so much because I was actually watching an interview on my drive
Yeah.
home from work today where they were interviewing the directors of
Hmm.
Scream. And I know I've heard this before. This is not the first time I've heard this, but it's just so fresh in my mind that kind of blows my mind. They were approached, they were put in contact with Spyglass Studios, who's
Hmm.
the studio that produced this movie. Paramount's distributing it. And they basically said, here are the IPs that we have. What do you want to make?
Nice.
And in a way, I'm like, good for you as a director who then gets to play around in whatever
Yeah.
sandbox, you have access to. But as a studio, to be like, just make something that we've done in the past.
Oh yeah, I don't blame the directors whatsoever. I mean that this is just like the market that we're in right now.
Yeah.
And like to me, I mean, like what's the next two things we're gonna see? Dungeons and Dragons, established IP,
Hell yeah.
and then John Wick, established IP.
Hell yeah.
Like we're not running out to see whatever the fuck. I still haven't even seen Puss in Boots, which is established IP, right?
Established IP, but it's so fucking good.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like I mean, there's a reason why this market exists. I think just the question is how long.
How long will it last?
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly I have no idea. But here's the thing. I think as long as the movies that they're making are passable to good, we're gonna be stuck in this rut for a while.
For sure. And it's not the worst run. I'm not saying this as a complaint.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to your point of what are the next movies that we're going to go see, we have, like you said, Dungeons and Dragons, which is getting good reviews.
Good
Not just as a good D&D movie, but as a good movie in general.
Mhm.
So that we know is probably going to stick around for a while. If money's good, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to make another one if it doesn't make bank.
Correct.
John Wick,
Yeah.
like fourth installment of a movie, but goddamn,
It's getting high praise.
it's getting S tier
Yeah.
praises. And I'm so excited to watch that. I'm so excited to talk about it because from what it sounds like, because we were having the debate, what the fuck can we say about a John Wick movie?
Right.
Apparently, a lot.
Yeah.
So
Said
you
almost as
know,
much in this review as we.
I know which is crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at like other movies coming out. Evil Dead,
Mhm.
that's coming out already. No way. There is no way that comes out.
I'm already almost tired of those previews, so yeah, that makes sense.
I am super excited for that. The Tetris movie. Who's gonna watch the Tetris movie?
I'm so upset that it's the making of Tetris movie.
Not a movie about
That would be so much fucking better.
watch Pixels.
I've seen the founder. I've seen Steve Jobs. I don't need to see. I've seen Argo. I don't need to fucking see the Tetris.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes. Yes. That was a cough, not a sneeze.
You angered the dogs.
That was a cough, not a sneeze.
But I think as far as this movie goes, I'm very happy. The motive in this movie, I think, is, well, again, not original.
Mhm.
I think it lends itself to some good like dynamic,
Yeah.
right? Like you understand in a way why like the parents and the siblings would do what they did,
Right.
right? This is a situation, a connection, a bloodline, right? Going down from Scream 1, just entirely based on like needless violence.
Mhm.
So like, yeah, why not? Why wouldn't you like snap and also then be like, fuck it, I'm gonna kill people too?
Well, this is why I'm starting to love my Power Rangers metaphor, because I mean, you watch the Power Rangers because you love your fucking. I mean, you do it for the action,
Yeah,
which is mindless action.
for sure.
You also, love your core set of heroes who just get like the shit beat out of them, and then they beat the shit out of somebody, right?
Hmm.
In this case, it's just one monster, not like several cheesy costumed monsters.
Yeah,
So if I think of the Scream franchise as like a Power Rangers movie, like I'll be there.
yeah, for
I'll be
sure.
there.
And one of the things that I noticed is a lot of the movies, a lot of the Ghostface killers are family related in some way.
Mm,
So, or related to whatever's happening because of family.
yeah.
So in Scream 1, Billy and Stu are getting revenge because Sydney's mom was like strutting her shit and banged his dad, and then mom left.
Mm.
Scream 2, like in the movie, they say, like that was Billy's mom who like went to get revenge for Billy.
I see.
They mention Roman from Scream 3, who's Sydney's half brother,
Mm.
because of like she got R-worded in Hollywood.
Oh,
Sydney's mom,
gotcha.
when she was like an actress. Scream 4,
Yeah.
they mention Jill
Yeah.
and some other loser,
Hmm.
and that she's Sydney's cousin.
Gotcha.
And then we have the only one who's like really separate is Richie and Amber,
right?
right? But then now we're back to Scream 6, back
Where
to
they're
family
related, yeah.
ties, right?
Yeah.
And I think if anything, I think this movie does a really good job at making the last movie better.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel that way. I know you were like kind of lukewarm on the original Scream on Scream 5.
I won't say that it makes it better, but I think they function well as a duology.
Mhm.
I think they function really well as a duology.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And
If I were to go back and watch Five Cream,
Mhm.
then I would want to pop in Scurvium.
they for sure make a very good like double feature.
Yeah.
I think if you just tell friends like, hey, we're gonna watch, Five Cream and
Right.
and Scream 6, I think you'll have a lovely time.
Yeah.
There are some really good tension scenes in this movie. I think hands down, like my this movie has my favorite Scream sequence, which is the subway scene.
The subway is awesome.
The subway scene is genuinely scary.
Did you walk out of that scene being like, all right, I know that, what's his name? I know that Ethan's the Ghostface now. Or were you still unsure?
it did not take him off my suspect list,
Right.
mainly
Well,
because
it certainly can't. I bought the econ alibi.
oh, you did?
I bought the econ alibi.
You can you believe him, baby baby? Can you believe that econ? That econ.
Hey man, he's got to study. Mostly because I'm like, all right, this random ass person's here. It was. I felt like, all right, they just threw this random ass person here. Like, clearly this must be a red herring because
Uh-huh.
like he ain't connected to nothing, right?
And that again
Yeah,
kind of brings me back to the reason why I really rank this movie as high as I do.
yeah,
Because of the fact that like there are so many like moving parts that you do buy some of their alibis. And they got to the point where I was standing it was like the third act. They hadn't fully revealed what had happened.
right.
And I was like, it can't just be two people.
Well, so when there's the scene where what's her name's going through everybody's alibi, and then Quinn's and Ethan's are actually like pretty. Besides just econ class, they're pretty iron tight. They're like, what? I hacked through like a hard ass like university system to find
Hmm.
whatever, or like I just randomly like stumbled upon like what's her name like apartment search and like randomly got in.
Hmm.
Those are yeah.
Yeah, they do. And it's not until you kind of then do put together that like obviously the cop has like
She has cop
access to
powers,
things that you just would not,
right?
right? Like, yeah, it might be an anonymous ad, but if you have a phone number linked on there,
Yeah.
that can find it,
Yep.
right? So like that makes sense to me. And then like yeah, they do throw you off with Quinn dying,
Right.
right? They have her like land, and you know the whole joke is always no body, no death. Well, you see a body,
You do see a body.
right? And so that kind of takes her off your suspect list.
Wait, speaking of bodies and then tension scenes, we didn't talk about the best part of this movie.
Was it the ladder?
The lad.
The ladder. You know, people love the ladder scene.
It's hilarious.
It's funny, but at the same time, I'm like, ain't no fucking way I would want to cross that goddamn ladder.
I wouldn't want to crash it either, but like girl got stabbed in an internal organ. Right? It was funny, and this is where once again, movie tries to have its cake and eat it too. Poor four girl twin gets stabbed in the arm.
Mm-hmm.
She's walking around like
she's
near death.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I'm losing a lot of blood.
Yeah. Meanwhile, her girlfriend gets like
she gets stabbed
and like
twisted
and
and fucking lifted up.
And she's like, I mean, she's like keeled over and holding herself, but like she's going pretty good.
Yeah.
So then they're like, let's have the most wounded one go last. She's on the ladder and Ghostface.
He's like teeter-tottering her.
I'm looking down. So, I loved it.
It was fun. And you know, so I actually had the joy of watching this movie twice.
Yeah.
I went back on Saturday, watched it with Katie. And our theater had some, you know, people seem to be into it.
When you and I saw
when
it?
you and I saw it. But when I saw it with Katie, like people were into it.
Nice.
People were clapping.
Yeah.
People were cheering. When that scene ended,
right.
Like people were like legit, like audibly, like, no, not Anika, not Annika. Like there was a dude dressed up as fucking Ghostface.
Awesome.
And so then,
is that even allowed?
In some cases, they do. Like if a movie is like super busy,
yeah,
they will actually say like no masks or costumes allowed for the screening. But in general, like
you can,
they don't really give a fuck. I mean, they're not gonna search you. Like if you put that shit on during the movie, like whatever.
Yeah. But
it's really funny because I actually bought the collectible like
the
cup with the little Ghostface thing. I woke up, I see it. He looks at me. I go. He goes, but you know, people. It says something about a movie that even after a requel, people will show up and
people are here to have a good time.
People are excited to have a good time.
Yeah. The convenience store scene was dope.
The convenience scene was dope. Very good.
As stupid as it is on paper, where you're like, ain't nobody can see shit in this small ass convenience store. But like Ghostface with the shotgun, just like looks badass.
And I think this is much less a testament to like the actual scene itself, but more to a testament to how good the directors are at building the tension.
Yeah.
That scene is very good. We talked about the subway scene,
Right.
and for me, Head and Shoulders is like the scene that I'm like, this is actually genuinely like tense, scary, and very well done. Then you also had the scene in Gail's apartment. I thought was a pretty good scene to like include for her.
Yes.
Which let her do some pretty smart things where she starts 69 him or whatever it is, where you like, you know, call back the number and she fucking pops him a couple times. But again, you know, that bulletproof vest.
Right.
Yeah.
Comes in clutch.
Comes in clutch. It always does. I really do think that if this movie had been made by a lesser duo,
could have been poo poo.
It would have been poo poo.
Yeah.
So good on them for getting like directors who are passionate and good about these movies.
For sure.
It just, you know, it does deal with what's come before, but I don't feel like it rests entirely on those shoulders.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy. I think this is a good place to roll, to call it. We might be able to actually record an episode for our next movie, but then we would have to hold it for a fat minute.
Yeah.
So our next movie is going to be Dungeons and Dragons.
Are we not allowed to like talk about it like after seeing it?
I mean, we are. I just don't see what the point of putting it out there, a review out there for people who haven't seen the movie yet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that one's coming up next soon, very soon. We have John Wick coming out on the 23rd. Are we still?
Oh, yes.
Hell yes. So I hope people like this movie. Please make sure that you share this with any other Scream fans.
Yes. And John Wick fans.
And John Wick fans. But until next time, this has been the Cine-Scoots podcast. He is Thano.
He's Javier.
And we will see you very soon.
Bye. Bye.